There is only one thing to fear: to become a warrior without fear. How's it going, everybody? It's World Champion here, and we are back to talk about Bleach. It's been, what, a couple weeks since my last Bleach video? Hey, I'm making progress, trying to be a little more, what's that word that YouTube likes? Consistent. Yes, I'm trying to be a little more consistent with some uploads, and plus, this part of the story is relatively short, especially how I'm kind of breaking things up too a little bit and everything, but yeah, we are in the Fake Karakura Town arc, which a lot of people hate. Well, I guess not hate. A lot of people don't find it very strong. Some people find it very strong. I'm on the fence that I actually really like this arc. Does it have some problems? A couple things here or there, but really nothing major. Mainly probably just the length of this arc, but we're here in Fake Karakura Town. Last we left off, Aizen got to this place from leaving Hueco Mundo, left Ukiura to run things at Hueco Mundo, and is currently facing off against the 13 Court Guard Squads and a Fake Karakura Town. So sit back, relax, let's talk about this Fake Karakura Town arc. So let's start this arc off with just kind of hyping up this feeling that we have. So the manga opens up with this little girl getting chased from hollows, and the hollows end up getting destroyed just from the sheer spiritual pressure that's in the area, which, yes, give me more of this, because this again just sets that stage, because we've been told, okay, when Captain Class Soul Reapers go into the world of the living, they have to put certain restrictions on, because if not, they could just destroy things with their spiritual pressure. This is a good example of that. Yes, they're not technically really in the real world. It's just one that was made in the Soul Society and swapped places with the real Karakura Town. But again, the part that was told to us about the limits, just we get to see that here. And I mean, the girl spirit almost gets destroyed too. Now, luckily in the anime, we actually get to see a former filler arc character. That guy that was just randomly showed up in the battle against Grand Fisher. You know, that random guy in the anime that tried to capture Rukia and all that. Yeah, he shows up, and he gives us the wording of everything. Like, oh, we should probably get out of this area, little kid, because those guys up there, they're strong, and they can destroy us with ease. And that's when we get the shots of everybody. Just, you know, the Espada, Aizen's crew, the 13 Court Guard Squads, all of that stuff. And Yamamoto wastes no time here. He activates his Shikai, all things turn to ash, Ryujin Jaka, and just traps Aizen, Gin, and Tozen in this like fiery palace thing. Now, they could probably get out, but Aizen has nothing to worry about. He's like, okay, well, we could get out, but let's just wait a little bit. Let's see what happens here. I mean, we got the Espada here. They should be fine. They should be enough. And yeah, the Espada, they just kind of start warming up a little bit, and we cut from there, and we cut back to Hueco Mundo. This is really the only time I'm ever going to touch on this moment. So we have Ukiura confronting Orihime, and they actually have a really nice talk here about the heart. Because Ukiura, he asks Orihime, hey, are you scared? Are you frightened? Like, do you feel fear now, human? And she says no, because she believes that in her heart that her friends are going to save her, you know, and she doesn't really blame them at all. Like, yes, she was shocked at first when she found out that they had gotten there, but she realized, okay, even though I did this to kind of save everybody and to help everybody, I know in my heart that I would have done the same thing that they did. I would have joined them in this fight. I mean, she did that when they went to save Rukia. You know, but, you know, we can't have the same thing happen again, because then it's trash, right, internet? So, no, I know how people think about the Arrancar arc. No, that it's just Soul Society 2.0. It's not, you know, it's an inverse, reverse kind of thing. We'll talk about more of that when we talk about the top 4 Espada, probably in the next episode, I think. That's when I really want to just kind of touch on some of those things about how people think, oh, the Arrancar arc's just the Soul Society arc, just, you know, different. Well, it's different, but we'll get on that soapbox another time, because this talk with Orihime and Ukiura is, again, another instance of Orihime's character growth. Because, you know, if this was beginning of the series, Orihime, she would have, like, cried in terror, screamed bloody murder, and she wouldn't have had the resolve that she has now. Whereas, again, right now, she has the resolve to just look Ukiura, look the fourth strongest Espada in the face, and be like, no, I'm not afraid of dying, because I'm not dying. And even if I do die, my heart is with my friends. And Ukiura just, he's the logical one in this exchange. He's like, you know, you humans keep talking about this heart. Where is it? Where is it? What is it? Let me understand a little bit. Like, is it something that I can just rip out of your chest and hold on to? Is it in your skull? Like, if I break that open, will I get to it? Like, you humans keep talking about the heart this, the heart that. But is this a physical thing? Is this an emotional thing? What is it that you guys talk about? And at that point, Ichigo arrives on the scene. He sprinted across the battlefield. He engaged a little bit with the Exekias, but Chad, Renji, and Rukia showed up, and they're basically going to take care of them. I'll talk a little bit more about that fight in the next arc review, because there's more to it during that time. It's basically they were just the roadblock here, and they took care of it for Ichigo. But yeah, Ichigo shows up, and him and Ukiura clash. Ukiura this time, instead of just using his hands, using his sword. And I love the exchange right here, where Ichigo just says, "Oh, so you see me as an equal now, huh? Is that it?" And Ukiura's like, "Well, no. First of all, I'm not going to kill her, because I haven't been given the order to," which shows, again, Ukiura is like the perfect soldier. But also, he's like, "No, you're a threat to Lord Aizen. That's why I pulled my sword out, because now I recognize you as a threat." And that's basically where we leave it there. You know, the anime goes back to it for like that little friendship moment of, you know, Ukiura telling Ichigo, "Oh, your friends are gonna all die," and Ichigo's like, "No, I believe they can do this, just like I believe I can do this. Like, that's why I'm not stopping." But I can't wait till we get to that fight, because that's a top tier fight. But yeah, so basically that's the calm before the storm, if you will, of this Fake Karakura Town arc. And we go now to this next segment where Baragan, who, you know, one of the Espadas, kind of takes command here. You know, he gets this nice little bone throne that he gets to sit on, and he, you know, touts that he's, you know, one of the best Espada, and that he's gonna take charge. And one thing I like here too, and oh man, I wish I caught this like in the years that I've been like revisiting the series and all that, he gives a look to Stark, and basically is just like, if that's all right with everybody, which is hinting, just a nice little hint of their rankings. So, you know, we still don't know these three Espada's rankings. We do find that out at the end of this arc. I can't wait to get to that part. But, you know, it's one of those hints where it's just like, okay, maybe Baragan is number one since he's taking charge, but why is he kind of like giving the side eye to Stark? Like, does Stark usually like back up with all this? Like, is he actually the number one? You know, is he maybe just a problem child when it comes to somebody being in charge? Who knows? So, you know, theories can be thrown around, all that stuff, but Haribel, you know, she just is just like, whatever, we'll do this. And before we even begin with fights, Baragan's like, okay, I think I know what's going on here. You guys have a barrier set up, probably around some key points of the area. I'm gonna send some hollows out there, which he does. And Yamamoto, he's like, well, do you think we would just leave these pillars unguarded? And here we have, just a good lineup of elite warriors that, you know, coming from Yamamoto, really means something. So we have Yuichika, Izuru, Hisagi, and Ikaku guarding these four pillars, one at each one, you know, top elite tier fighters. And I do want to complain about one thing at this section. It's Maurecchio. First of all, my least favorite lieutenant. just, he's annoying. And I know he's supposed to be annoying, but whatever. He basically, and especially in the anime, he plays the one that's like, wait, I didn't know this was going to happen. He's basically the audience reactor of the group. Like, okay, this was kind of an old trope that's not around too much anymore, but it is that trope of like, oh, I'm going to explain everything, and oh, I'm going to be the reactor for the audience. It does lead to a funny joke where it's Soifon just like, look, you were probably eating crackers when I told you and you didn't hear me, fat ass. And he keeps complaining, but then she's like thinking to herself like, or maybe I didn't tell you. Oops, because everybody else knew that they had these 4 warriors at the pillars. Whatever. So Barugan sends out some of his fracciones, and this is basically the big chunk of the arc where, you know, we have these 4 different fights happening, and, you know, things happen. So we're going to talk about each one of these fights one at a time, because a lot of them have some good character work in it, and we actually get to see some mindsets of the different squads in the Soul Society. So we're gonna start with, I struggle saying that this is a comic relief fight, but it kind of is. but until the end at least. But we have Yumi Chika versus Charlotte Coolhorn. So the cool thing about these fights that we get is it's almost like they're fighting an inverse of themselves, or like somebody that like kind of brings out that part of themselves that maybe they don't really like too much. Starting with Yumi Chika, you know, Coolhorn is this type of guy who is very similar to Yumi Chika. He loves beauty. He thinks he's the most beautiful thing in the entire world. I don't know, your standards of beauty are quite low, good sir. I just gotta say that right now. I mean, at least Yumi Chika, at least he looks decent, you know? I mean, he's got the cool little feather things going on, and later on he gets some additional stuff, you know? Isn't that right, Sydney? You taking your nap? You just listen to me talk about Bleach? Good, as you should. But yeah, they just have like a bit of a slugfest. You know, Yumi Chika using his 5-blade thing, and Coolhorn using very ridiculously named attacks. I mean, they're just... I don't even want to go through one of them. One of them ends up just being a regular Sero. You know, just an overblown Sero. Coolhorn goes through his Resurrection and starts attacking Yumi Chika and puts him into this complete darkness of thorns and all that. And of course, now that nobody can see, Yumi Chika's just like, oh, okay, let me use my true Shikai. And he releases Ruri Iru Kujaku, which is basically just these vines that attach them to somebody, and they steal spiritual pressure. Yep. So that's how he beat Hisagi back in the Soul Society. I told you we were going to get back to that. I told you that we were going to talk about that. But yeah, basically, you know, just a refresher in case you don't remember, Yumi Chika calls his sword a different name because he kind of hates his sword and the attitude that it has. So he just calls him by a different name because it angers him. And not only just that, there's that unspoken rule in Squad 11 where they, you know, since they're all fighters and brutes and all that, they look down on Zanpakuto that are based off of Kido and use like Kido spells and all that, because again, since they're all like fighters, since they're all people that just love to fight and like close hand combat and all that, yeah, that's Kido spells. That's for weaklings, you know. We're an Elden Ring, we're gonna play as the samurai, not the wizard. No, none of that. Yeah, so that's another reason why Yumi Chika does that, because I'm sorry, Yumi Chika, he has the strength of like a 3rd seat, but I'd almost argue like if he used his technique a lot more and like refined it, he could be a lieutenant. But that's a whole conversation for another day and another time. But yeah, so Yumi Chika wins, you know, he gets the heal and all that, and you know, we get that remembrance of what Squad 11's all about. The next fight is Izuru versus Abirama, and out of these 4 Aron card that we meet up with, Abirama probably has my favorite design of his Resurrection. He turns into like this big hawk, and then he gets like 4 wings and all that, and his feathers are as strong as steel and iron and all that, and you know, the typical thing you would see. But Izuru pulls out some cool stuff. You know, he pulls out some Kido spells, like this Twister thing, and some Bakudo stuff and all that. But it's not until he uses Wabisuke. And, you know, we get the reminder again of what Wabisuke does. And he has this talk with Abirama, because before their fight, Abirama had this chant that he did, that he was just gonna kick Izuru's ass, and that he was just gonna, you know, wipe the floor with them, and it's gonna be a great fight, awesome fight, it's gonna be fan-freaking-tastic. Izuru's just standing there like, what are you doing? And so this is like, again, that like inverse that they're fighting, or like that instinct that they fight against, because Abirama is like that instinct that loves to battle, that wants to battle, that wants to fight, that killer instinct of somebody that wants to fight. And Izuru doesn't really have that until Abirama just kind of coaxes him a little bit, just like, oh, you were with Squad 3? Oh, that was Ginichimaru's old squad. Wow, no wonder he left. And Izuru just like, he doesn't flip, but he gets that scowl on his face and just kind of cuts the cheek of Abirama. And he's like, oh, there's the face. Now we're on equal ground. So, again, they have their fight while Bisuke gets used. And this is where we get Izuru's side of things. And just like the mentality of what he learned through Gin. And it's all about despair. You know, you should really despair fighting. How can you love to fight? Because somebody might die. Somebody might get seriously hurt. You know, you have to take a life in a battle like this. That's sad. That's depressing. It's despair, you know, because not only is, you know, the person dying feeling despair, but you as the person killing them, you should feel some too, because, well, for one, that's what makes you human, is having like that despair inside of you, that darkness inside of you to help you, you know, live and not succumb to it. Izuru has that, and I'm assuming, you know, he learned that from Gin and, you know, taught it to the rest of the squad, that you shouldn't enjoy fighting because you have to take a life, and despair the fact that maybe your life might get taken. And it's so perfect for Izuru's Zanpakuto because of how it's shaped. And oh, this is one of the coldest moments, and I wish people talked about it more, because Izuru just like flips his sword up and just has it like underneath Abirama's neck, about to kill him. Because what Wabisuke does is, you know, it multiplies the weight by 2 every time you strike it, and Izuru even makes a line that, you know, when somebody can't grip their sword, it's like they're bowing for repentance. And then he just, again, takes Wabisuke and just beheads Abirama. That's the end of that fight. And I'm sitting here like, oh my god, these edgelords, they're something else. Oh, speaking of edgelords, hi Hisagi versus Findor. This is an interesting one, because when the chapters came out in the weekly time period and all that, a lot of the community liked this fight. And I mean, I did too in the manga, but this is one of those moments where I'm just like, I wonder what the anime can do with this. And the anime did really good on this part. They added some choreography that really looked nice and really like heightened the tension in the moment, because Findor, he went to Hisagi and he's just like, okay, this is my name, what rank are you? And obviously Hisagi's a lieutenant, so he said lieutenant. And Findor's like, okay, I'll fight at the strength of a lieutenant. But he doesn't. He starts at fighting like a 5th seat, and Hisagi calls him out on this. And so we see Findor like keep breaking his mask, making himself stronger and stronger like by each level. And these are just levels that he just kind of assumes that he's, you know, because I don't think he's really fought a 5th seat and lived, probably, even when he was a hollow. But that being said, he probably just assumed the strength based off of his own and some of the other people that say, oh, I'm this level, I'm that level, I'm Yonko level, I'm Yonko Commander 2 level, I'm Admiral level, oh yeah, well, I'm Vice Admiral level, you know, things like that. Sorry, One Piece power scalers, I had to take that shot right there. But that's the thing, Hisagi actually like teaches Findor that lesson, like, oh, you can say you're lieutenant level and all that, but no, you're nowhere close. Like, even though he was having such a tough time with him at lieutenant level, it brought Hisagi to use his Shikai, and this is where we first get to see his Shikai, Kazashimi. Oh, this is probably my favorite Zanpakuto. I'm not gonna lie, but it's not from this fight. Oh no, it's from a fight we'll get to in the next arc. Hisagi puts on his Shikai, fights Findor, and as he's fighting him, this is where we get the Squad 9 stuff, where how he learned from Tozen is fear. And it's not only just to like fear your opponent, because you know, if you fear your opponent, oh, you might just run away from the battlefield and just not fight anymore, and not even fight, you know? No, that's not the only thing you need to fear. You need to fear yourself, and you need to fear your sword. And having that fear, again, it kind of ties in to the despair thing from Squad 3, where you should fear dying, but you also should fear what you can be doing, because you have the opportunity to kill somebody on the battlefield. You kind of need to be careful with that kind of power. You know, so if you fear yourself and what you can do, then you can truly wield the blade. This seems like a way of the sword for a samurai, and I'm just trying to sit here and think, okay, well, is it? And I mean, I could research and all that, but honestly, we don't really have that much time, do we, Sydney? We don't really have that much time. So, yeah, Hisagi ends up beating Findor after he says, oh, I'm captain level now. And, yeah, that pillar's fine. So we got 3 pillars fine. How's Ikaku doing with Po? Oh. That's how well he's doing. So Ikaku gets his ass kicked. Yeah, so this kind of starts off weird because Po gets to Ikaku and he's just like, oh, well, you know, we're gonna fight. And Ikaku's like, alright, let's fight. And they get into this conversation of like praying to a god. And I think this kind of alludes to the Soul King, or like who knows about the Soul King. Just more reinforcement of that idea, like, oh, not many people know about like Squad Zero and all that. So yeah, Ikaku's just like, well, we don't really pray to anything, but here we go, I'll pray to your god. So they kind of have a fight. Po just stomps Ikaku because, you know, he's weak. He's only using his Shikai. He's not using the Bankai that a few people know about. And the pillar ends up getting destroyed. Yeah, so Karakura Town's starting to seep into, like, they're starting to switch back places and all that. And luckily, Komomura comes by, punches Po in the face, and Tetsuzaimon just puts down these other little tiny pillars that are just little makeshift things, just to kind of, like, put a band-aid over everything. Po gets up, punches Komomura, and then releases his Zanpakuto, which is like a giant whale thing. Like, this guy is huge. Like, just this picture alone of him standing next to Komomura is ridiculous. And that's just before his resurrection. Now his resurrection, he's even bigger. He just towers over Komomura, who's already a towering individual. But I mean, luckily his punch didn't really do much to Komomura, who activates Bankai and just bonks him on the head. There was really not much to this part of the fight, but we do get a good moment with Tetsuzaimon and Ikaku. So Tetsuzaimon knows Ikaku has a Bankai. Now, Komomura can also hear all this, but he's still keeping it a secret. Tetsuzaimon basically just says, look, we have a duty to the Soul Society. Like, this isn't just some fun and games thing. We're here to kill hollows and keep balance in our universes. Now, I know you have some personal things. I know this. I understand this. But you can't let that get in the way of your duty, because it was your job to hold this pillar. And this is like Tetsuzaimon talking as a lieutenant. Like, he has that tone in his voice and the way he's talking to Ikaku where he's just like, no, we are friends, but I'm in charge right now. Like, I am your superior officer, and I have some shit I need to tell you. But yeah, he just keeps, it's that whole thing of like, you know, putting your personal things aside for your duty. But Ikaku, he's so prideful and all that, that instead of Tetsuzaimon just saying that, like what I just said, he says, well, if you're still going to stick to the things that you want to do and the things that you believe in, then you better get stronger so you can keep this a secret. So that way you don't have to use it. So just get stronger, and then you can do your duty, and then we don't have to yell at you for being an idiot. So yeah, that's basically the end of that part. And I mean, after all that, we get to Badagon's reaction to all this. He's none too pleased, and Yamamoto just makes the call. It's just like, all right, everybody, pick a spot. any spot, pick who you want. So we basically got 3 groups here. We got Squad 10 with Holly-Belle and her Fracciones. We got Squad 2 going against Baragon and the last of his 2 Fracciones. And then we have Kyoraku and Ukitake going up against Stark and Lillinette. So, kind of like what I did with that second section, let's talk about each confrontation one by one. We're going to start with Soifone versus Vega. This was a cool fight. Anime did some cool things with it. You know, finally getting to see Suzume Bachi kill somebody. That's cool. That was great. Not much more with it, though. And that's the part I had problems with. Mainly in the anime, because we get more Maurecchio, and he has to go through an arc and all that. Because he has an opponent that he can't defeat in the anime, even though the manga, like, as soon as his opponent got hit by Soifone just bouncing off of his head, he was done. He was out of there. But no, the anime had to keep going and all that stuff. But we get to some of Squad 2's little creed or whatever, where Soifone kind of gets mad at Maurecchio, but not in the funny way. More in the why did you do this way. So there's a point where Vega has Soifone pinned to a wall, and he's going in for the kill. Maurecchio comes in and like blocks it and pushes him back. And Soifone's just like, why'd you do that? Do not do that. You only did that because you're afraid that if I get cut down, you're next and that you would be dead. And no, that is not what I taught you. And their whole thing is like, if somebody falls in battle, like especially a leader like Soifone, then that's your opportunity to get a sneak attack in. Like, that is your shot. Take it. Don't worry about me. Don't worry about the dead body. Take the shot. Like, just do it. Just freaking do it. But yeah, there's not really too much with it. Again, like, we do get this cool moment with Suzume Bachi where we learn that if she like stings through an enemy and then she stings through like on another side but it still hits the same spot, the effect of Suzume Bachi still works. So what Soifone ended up doing was piercing like the same spot in an organ, and that was enough to defeat Vega, and Baragon has no more Fracciones, so now it's him against Squad 2. And yeah, they are going to double team him, but we don't get to see that quite yet. We move on to the next part of the battlefield, Squad 10 versus Holly-Belle. Hitsugai has got Holly-Belle, fine, but Rangiku is in a 1-on-3 situation. Now, she does a little bit of light teasing because these ladies with Holly-Belle are they're kind of stupid, and they're kind of bitchy. That's all of them too, but they at least know how to snap themselves out of it. Rangiku does okay on her own, but it's still a 3-on-1 situation, so she's still having a bit of an issue with it until it becomes a 3-on-2 situation when Momo just randomly appears, and you know, we get to see some growth with Momo, just kind of see how much of a genius she actually is, because she was able to use like 3 different Keto spells mixed together at the same time to kind of trick these Arankars to thinking, oh, they're fine, they're safe. So, yep, Momo comes in with some backup. It kind of helps. I mean, they get injured, but then the 3 Fracciones, oh, by the way, their names are Sun, Mila Rose, and Apache, in case you forgot. But, yeah, I like their designs too. You know, Mila Rose, she's like the lion, Apache's the deer, and Sun's a snake. And instead of attacking them in the 3-on-2 situation after they just got healed, they decide to summon some monster. They use a triple summoning jutsu, and this creature named Aion appears. Now, Aion, again, he's just a mindless monster. But man, when he came onto the scene in the manga back in the day, oh, this is one of those vivid memories I have of Bleach. Because, first of all, the way this thing moves, especially in the anime, ridiculous. I mean, this thing is basically like a walking zombie. It's like Oars from One Piece, where he was like the zombie and all that. Like, when he had Luffy's powers using like Gum moves and all that. Like, he was able to do them, but it was very like contorted and all that. That's what Aion is, and that's how he moves. And his first thing he does is he moves all weird, and then he just goes right for Rangiku and like completely obliterates her slide. Like in the manga, you just see him like open up his fist, and then a chunk of meat just falls out of it. So Rangiku's pretty much done. I mean, yeah, she's pretty much done, at least for this fight. And then Momo gets punched to all hell. Luckily, Izuru and Hisage get there, which Izuru, we find out, used to be part of Squad 4. And so he starts emergency treatment on Rangiku, which, good thing you were there. Emergency. So he fixes up Rangiku, but she's still kind of out because, again, she got her whole side taken out. Now, the anime censored this a little bit, so you don't get to see Rangiku's whole side get torn out, but it does a considerable amount of damage at least. But Momo, she might have like punctured a lung or something. Like, it's serious, but not as serious as Rangiku's. And Hisagi can only do but so much against Aion before he just gets squeezed almost to death. Luckily, Tetsuzaimon comes there and distracts him, and Aion just transforms more, and God, this thing's form is just ridiculous. This thing, it brought the hype. But so with all the lieutenants down, Izuru has no chance in hell until Yamamoto shows up and just blows a hole through the thing, and then no dips it with his Zanpakuto. This scene. So I have trouble because I don't know which version I like more. On one hand, when Yamamoto, first of all, he plays with Aion a little bit, kind of toys with him a little bit, and it's just like, oh, you're just a mindless monster, whatever. The cut he does, though, I don't know which one I like more. So the manga, shows him get cut in half, and then like it breaks off, and then the half like goes towards Yamamoto. The anime version, Yamamoto cuts him in half. We see the split, and then like he splits open, and then his body just falls through Yamamoto. Then he burns the 3 Arankars by Apache, Sunsun, and Mila Rose. You didn't really get that close. You didn't really do too much, but hey, he saved the day. And I think I love Yamamoto's lines here because I think he's kind of like toying with the lieutenants a little bit, being like, oh, you made the captain commander come out. Great, now I'm on the front lines. Can you guys not handle just such a disturbing beast? Come on, making an old man get out of his chair. But that's that battlefield. Now, while all that wanton destruction was going on, how are Kiraku and Ukitake doing against Stark and Lillinette? Ukitake refuses to fight a little girl because it's a little girl and he doesn't want to end the little girl's life. I mean, he will if she doesn't stop, but he's giving her a chance to go away. So that's what Ukitake's doing. Stark and Kiraku, they're barely fighting. I mean, they're basically just whacking each other with twigs right now, being like, hey, why don't you do your thing? No, why don't you do your thing? But they have such respect for each other, and they're both so similar that it sucks because neither one of the two want to fight each other. And Kiraku makes this comment near the end of it. He's just like, it would really suck. Like, they kind of complement each other. Stark compliments Kiraku, is just like, why don't you use your second sword? I know you can use 2-sword style. I can tell just by the slight distance of your sword when you attack with your left and right hand. And Kiraku's just like, alright, well, fine. I can pull it out, but you're going to have to do more too. And that's when we get the question of, okay, are you number one? Because if you're telling me you're number one, I'm gonna have to take this a lot more seriously, and I really don't want to at all. And Stark at first doesn't want to answer him, but before Stark answers, Hollybell and Hitsugaya still have their fight. And again, like that whole inverse kind of thing, they both care about their subordinates, because there were a couple times where Hitsugaya was worried for Rangiku because she was not only in a 3-on-1 situation, but she had her side obliterated. So there's that. And then the same thing happened with Hollybell when her Fractiones fell. But she ends up starting to get serious, and we find out that she is the number 3 Espada. Oh, censorship, why'd you have to ruin that in the anime? I like the manga version so much more. But yeah, so Hollybell is the 3rd Espada, and that's when Kiraku sees it. He's like, okay, well, she's the 3rd. What are you, buddy? Like, if you're number one, I'm going to have to take this seriously, like I said. But if you're not, you know, maybe we can play around a little bit. And unfortunately, Stark is just like, well, unfortunately, no. He takes off his glove, and he's the number one Espada, which means Batagon is number 2. Again, that little foreshadowing we got from like chapters and episodes prior to this, really nicely done. See, that's how you do something subtle with a big payoff. Because yeah, Stark's number 1, and Kiraku, he's gonna have to go serious. And at this moment, all the Espada power up, and we cut from that back to Hueco Mundo, which is where we're gonna leave this arc, because the next arc is all about the Espada. We're gonna, I don't know how long that video is gonna be, but it's gonna be a good one. It's gonna be big. But overall, I really liked this arc. You know, the couple problems I had with it, you know, some of the comedy was just, it felt a little bit out of place, you know, with like Yumichika and Coolhorn, and some of the moments too with like Momo and Rangiku with Holybell's Fracciones. Like, it was kind of awkward, but it really wasn't too bad. I think between the anime and the manga, I like the manga versions better. But there were a couple moments that stood out to me in the anime, like, again, Isagi and Findor's fight. The stuff with Ion looked pretty good and was pretty cool. Even some of the pacing was fine in the anime until, you know, some of that filler got in the middle of it. But regardless of all that, I really like this arc. I gave it a grade, probably a B+. Like, nothing, again, it's nothing terrible, but I think just compared to everything else in the series, this part was a B+, because, you know, it did a lot of things good. Just, you know, some of the comedy was just and some of the fights too, like the whole Ikaku thing, you know, I already talked about that. But, you know, I'm happy with everything is the biggest part. But let me know down in the comments what you thought of this part of Bleach, this arc, if you will. Be sure to like the video as well if I entertained you in any way, shape, or form. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon so you get notified of every time I upload a video, especially when it's another Bleach arc review. And as always, people, I've been your world champion. Catch you guys in the next one. See ya. I don't need you. Better things are calling